think those in the audience don't need to know, but already know this probably. There's a copy of their agenda in the back. This is a work session, so we don't make binding decisions, except perhaps to give some direction to staff. This is a more informal proceeding. So we've got two items on our agenda. First, the historic tax credit structure for New City Hall, and then the downtown angle parking discussion. So before we jump into that, and before we have any comment on, or invite public comment, Chris, do you have anything in the way of preliminaries?
Only thing I would add, Mayor, is as you're well aware, we we sent out a press release, I believe it was Friday. Thursday, late afternoon, signed a contract with SL Selco to do the audit on the utilities. So they're doing everything from the meter through the bill. And actually, they arrive in town tomorrow, and they'll be in, we've been scheduling appointments for them to be in some homes Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So they physically get out and see to kick off their work, as well as looking at a lot of data. So just for clarity, that contract's been signed. They're starting work this week. They actually already started looking at data late last week. And the contract's for a 90-day period. We are hopeful that we can be ahead of that 90 days, but it does run through the end of January.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chris. And I see that Debbie sent out a utility billing update at 4:20 this afternoon for members of the council. It went to the council email, so that's available on the city website also for members of the public. I haven't had a chance to read it, but that is in your mailbox now. With that, public comment on all items. We will have an opportunity for public comment on each of the two specific items that we'll get to later, the tax credits, historic tax credits, and then the angle parking. So if you're going to be around and would like to comment, wait until we get to that. But if you've got to leave, feel free to come forward now on those items or anything not on our agenda tonight. Is there anything, any public comment at this point in the meeting? If so, please come forward. Just tell us your name and keep your comments to 3 minutes if you would. No one is coming forward, so we'll close the initial period for public comment and move on to our, oh, I apologize. Mike.
What time will our comments be?
It depends how, on angle parking. It depends how fast we get through historic tax credit structure. I would guess half hour to 40 minutes. Half an hour, Andy says.
There's an ABT performance.
Oh, well, if you want to be heard for now, you can do that. We just ask that you comment once. That's probably safer. Yeah, why don't you come forward? We don't want to have you waste your tickets.
I was even told I should make some notes too, so I don't go on and on. I'm here to speak against back-in angle parking. I am for nose-in angle parking.
And Mike, if you just identify yourself.
Oh, excuse me. Mike Scher, live at 1109 North 32nd, and my office downtown is on Montana Avenue between the Buffalo Block and the McCormick.
Thank you.
I just want to speak of when we talk about nose-in parking, it's extremely simple. If you are driving down the street and are looking for a place and you see one, you just turn your car a little bit to the right and you just go in and you put your brakes on and you're there. It takes somewhere between 4 to 5 seconds to park on a nose-in parking. To leave is a little bit more difficult when you back out. What I suggest is that you back out 2 feet. Your backup lights are on, so people coming down the street will see that somebody is coming out. And you slowly back out, and cars that are coming, down the street tend to stop. I think people in Billings are very courteous, and they allow you to to come out. Also, when you're coming out, the person behind you that, has to wait for you to back out and go ahead. Good chance that they're looking for a parking spot too. So they're gonna wait and take that spot. Now, when you talk about back-in parking, first, there's just a very few people that live in Billings that know how to do it. And those people work on 29th Street, which is where I see it. It is very difficult to park if somebody is not trained to park in a back-in thing. You have to pull up, and a lot of times when people are looking to back in, they pull into another lane and they are pretty much horizontal on the street. And sometimes that other lane is traffic going the other way, so it could cause some problems. They back in. If they don't want to, straighten out before they back in, they can do it in a curve, like trying to back in a 45-degree curve. Not many people can do that. And I always said that the back-in parking is very good for somebody who is going to rob the bank, because they can run out of the bank and they can jump in their car and put the button and they're on their way. So, but I don't think we have too many bank robbers in Billings. And just a couple of things is, this whole thing about the number of people who can back in park is very few. And, it's not worthwhile changing something which we've been doing since about 1912 to today, which is nose-in parking. And nose-in parking, I think, is, like I say, is much quicker. It's easier. Anybody can do it. Backing out I've never seen an accident caused by somebody backing out, or even the remnants of an accident in downtown Billings. And I always travel home. I always go down Broadway, kind of to see what's happening in downtown. So it's, it's been good.
And Mike, if you just wrap up because your time is up.
Okay. Just two things which are maybe a little bit off the topic. I'd just like to, that on Park 1 should be changed to free parking starting at 6 o'clock, so that people go to the Alberta Bear can park in there. Right now, they don't park in there. There's probably, if there's 10 cars parked in there, they'll go in there. And one of the primary reasons it's going to cost them $3 to park there if they can get their car to work. Trying to get out of Park 1 with a card, that doesn't work. It causes a big lineup of traffic. So that whole thing is really kind of screwed up. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Very good. Any other public comment at this time? Christy.
Yes, hi, I'm sure as predicted, I'm here. My name is Christy Drake. I reside at 2950 Walden Place, and I'm speaking on behalf of the of Billings TrailNet and our 1,700 members who've actually, paid money to have us advocate on their behalf for people who like to use active transportation. And I understand the difficulties with back-in angled parking and front-in angled parking and the things that you have to deal with in making this decision. Whatever that turns into, I just hope and pray that you will maintain the bicycle facilities that have been 30% designed, I guess, on the streets where the back-in angled parking was to have been. There are sharrows in front-in angled parking on 30th Street, just south of Grand Avenue, and I ride that all the time. As you know, you can't ride a bike on the sidewalk in downtown Billings, but I do see a lot of people riding a bike on the sidewalk in downtown Billings because they are afraid to ride in traffic where there is no designated bike facility. And at least having Sharrows is one way to show people, because I've been told before, get out of the street, get on the sidewalk. And I have to say, I'm sorry, I can't ride on the sidewalk. So you're much more predictable when you're riding in a lane and you're not being, not riding on a sidewalk with vehicles turning off into you from driveways and the alleyways. So thank you very much. I know this is a difficult, decision, but please just maintain the bike lanes and the bike structures. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Any other public comment at this time? No one is coming forward, so we'll close the public comment period and move on to our first item. Andy, I think, is our presenter on item number 1, historic tax credit structure for the new city hall. Formerly known as the Stillwater Building, formerly known as the James Batten Federal Courthouse.
Indeed, I don't know any other former names. Mayor, Councilmember Tidswell joined online, so although we can't see him right now, just wanted to let you know I noticed that. And then also, I do have with us via Zoom Aaron McCready of Dorsey and Whitney. That's our bond counsel attorney, and Adam Markwood of Wishneff and Associates. They are the historic tax credit consultants that we engaged in a few years ago. So if you get into or have real technical questions, they are available. But tonight, I just want to go through generally a high-level overview, and the reason. Use the mouse probably. All right. So typically, I don't come to you at a work session for financing structures. Generally speaking, they're pretty straightforward. We're going to a lender to borrow money, and we're paying it back over time. This project, as you guys are aware, has I'll say a more complex structure, but certainly something new to Billings and really new to Montana, or at least governments in Montana. So just by way of background, how we got to where we are tonight and where we're going, back in November, we hired Wishneff and Associates, who again are on this evening, to help us secure historic tax credits for the new City Hall building. In June, you guys approved a letter of intent to be signed with First Interstate Bank, as well as temporary lease financing with Montana Board of Investments. I've kind of thought about that as construction financing as we go through the project. Next Monday, you'll be asked to consider all of the agreements that have been developed as a result of that letter of intent with FIB. And then we would execute on those agreements if approved and close this transaction on November 20th. And that'll kind of put all the wheels into motion at that point. So you received this image in your staff memo. Is pretty small, hard to read, kind of like it is up there right now. I emailed it to you as well, so you can zoom in. But conceptually, this is the structure that we're going to be creating. And I'm going to walk through the parts with you, again, at a high level. And if you have questions about it, Aaron and Adam can probably take the technical ones, but just want to make sure you're aware. So there are really two parts to this financing. One of them is what I've highlighted in green there, and that's just the standard lease financing that we do. We built the BOC with it. It's what we have with the Montana Board of Investments currently. That's just, we're borrowing money from them. You make an annual appropriation to repay it over 15 years. Part of the deal with First Interstate Bank, when we approached them about the tax credits, they said, yeah, that's great, we want to do that, but we also want to do this financing as well. So if approved, what will happen is we'll pay off the Board of Investments lease, and we'll have that outstanding with FIB. You are authorizing the city to draw up to $14 million on that project. That will see us through construction, cover all costs, and one of the benefits with going with FIB here is we can pay that down quicker. And the reason we wanted that was the tax credits that we are anticipating getting, and then the sale of this building, as well as the sale of some parking lots. And as those transactions close and we have cash, we wanted to be able to put that down so we didn't have $14 million outstanding for 15 years. However, until that happens, we will have up to $14 million outstanding. So that side of the kind of structure, I think, is pretty straightforward. The other side here in blue, this is the tax credit structure that we will set up if you approve the agreements. So what happens here, I'm going to zoom in, I think, so you can see it a little bit. Up here at the top, there's the former Federal Building Manager LLC, or the Manager LLC. That is an entity that we will create. I'll back up here really quickly. In order to realize tax credits, the building has to be essentially in a taxable entity, which is not the City of Billings. So this is the structure that can be set up so that the building can be contributed into a partnership. FIB can contribute equity into that partnership. And through these transactions, we can realize the equity and they can realize the tax credits. So in order to do that, we set up the Manager LLC. We will be the 100% owner of that. That entity, along with the FIB entity, will enter into the partnership, the Landlord LLC. The City of Billings is going to lease the building. We will maintain fee title ownership through the entire term of this structure, as forever, as long as we own that building. So that will not change. What we will do is enter into a long-term lease with the Landlord LLC that establishes ownership for tax purposes in the Landlord LLC. The Landlord LLC will then lease it back to the City of Billings so that we can operate and run it. We will make lease payments to the landlord. The landlord will then make lease payments back to the city. Through those transactions, we will be able to realize the cash that FIB is contributing to that entity, and they will realize the tax credits. Totally new here, right? We don't have any entities set up outside of the City of Billings, so that's completely new. You are setting up 2 entities. There will be annual tax reporting, quarterly reporting with FIB here. Some structures that are completely new to the city. We intend to hire likely Baker Tilly to act in those roles for us. That is not something my office is equipped with. We don't, like I said, we don't do that. So, and we really don't want to mess this up. There's very strict timelines, rules that we want to make sure we're following here to see this through. We've been meeting with FIB attorneys, our bond counsel, as well as tax counsel on this. They provided legal opinions on this. The structure is solid. It is complex, but I think it'll be a really good thing for us once it's all said and done. Generally, the structure is going to last for 5 years. At that point, we buy out FIB out of the partnership. They're gone, and we collapse the whole structure to where we just have that left side remaining that's in green. We'll go back. Just that left side remaining in green. At that point in time, which will be 5 years from now, we'd have 10 years remaining on whatever is still outstanding on that lease, and we would appropriate annual lease payments on whatever's outstanding. Right now, based upon, I want to say, project cost as of middle of October, we believe we'll gross a little over 7 million, I believe, or 7.8 million, I think is what I had in the memo. But FIB, they're going to take costs out of this. This is very expensive to get done. We've had, like I said, a lot of calls and attorneys and very intelligent people helping structure this. And so all those fees will come out of that. I estimate we'll net about 5 million. That is a conservative estimate. Don't be surprised if it's more than that, but at this point, I think it's safe to estimate 5 million net as a result of this structure. We won't get it all. immediately. That'll come in generally in 3 tranches. We'll get some of it when we close, the smallest portion when we close, and then we'll get 2 larger ones when the building is, I believe when we file our first tax return and they get their K1, which may mean nothing to you, but about halfway through the year next year. And then when we file our phase 3 or part 3 report with the National Park Service, which is the final report saying, yes, we've done everything, and they sign off that it's all good. So throughout next year, we will realize the gross proceeds, and then over the next 5 years, we'll make payments to FIB, and then ultimately buy them out of the partnership at the end of the term. I think that's really all I have to go over. Again, I'm sure there's a lot to talk about, so I'm going to minimize this so I can get the.
Go ahead. We'll hold our questions, but write them down and then.
Go ahead and ask them, I think.
Okay, if you're at a point.
Yep.
Okay, Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Andy. Just to simplify this, the 7.5 million, is that coming from National Parks Historic Funds?
So that's coming from First Interstate Bank. So the way this will work, I mean, if you think about it, the way I think about it, I guess, you think about a tax credit on your personal tax return. You know, it reduces your tax liability dollar for dollar. The FIB has a tax liability, so they offered to purchase our tax credits there's federal credits and state credits. I believe the federal credit's at 89 cents and the state credit's at 92 cents. So they'll realize, you know, $1, but they paid, you know, a blended rate of 90 cents or something like that for it.
So if they're purchasing, I'm just trying to get my arms around this. If they're purchasing, so FIB is purchasing our tax credits for 7.5. So by the time it's said and done, the real money that's going to help pay this building off is 5 million clear for their purchasing of our tax credits and saving them the tax dollars instead of having them pay. And in the long run, they'll make, instead of paying the $7.5 million in taxes, they'll get some back also.
Correct. I don't know what their tax benefit is precisely, but it's certainly more than they're paying for it. That, you know, otherwise they wouldn't do it.
And you didn't think about when you're leasing it back that as a leasee, that we'd only pay $1 a year? Just kidding.
I think, the structure's set up so that we're paying market rate to this entity, but then that's why we have the loan and the lease back to the city, so they pay it back to us.
Thank you.
Yes.
Andy, when we go to try to pay down the agreement after 5 years, you said, was it?
The tax credit structure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would we likely issue GO bonds, which would be a lower interest rate?
So no, to get rid of that structure, the buyout, I want to say is 2%. It's a little over 300,000. So what I'm intending to do and recommending is that of those payments that we receive, that's part of that net. So the $7 million we're going to get from them, we'll hold back some of that cash so that when the time comes to buy them out of this, we'll have that money right there. So then we won't have, we're not paying that $7 million back to FIB. You know, they're realizing it through a reduction on their taxes. We will maintain the lease structure. That's going to go for 15 years or until we pay it off. We can refinance if rates are favorable at that time, but you know, FIB would certainly be interested in refinancing it if that's what we want to do at that time. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
Yeah, it's just, and we'll just watch interest rates to see whether we can borrow money more cheaply than our rate with FIB, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that may be possible at that point in time. Because of this structure, right now, we don't get the benefit of tax exempt borrowing, which we normally do, so, and that's not gonna be a reality while this structure's in place. So, at that point in time, I suspect there would be an advantage to refinancing with tax exempt rates.
And that's basically where I was going
I see.
to. Are we qualified for tax exempt borrowing? And it sounds like we're not. So, Councilmember Boyette?
Thank you, Mayor. Andy, sometimes the bank makes a loan that you have to pay off at one time, and another time they'll make a loan that you can make principal reductions. Can we do principal reductions? You know, we come across the money, can we put principal anytime we want, or do we have to do it at a certain time?
On the lease structure, yeah, I believe we can do it at any point in time. We intended to set it up that way, very clear with them that that's the intent, because we don't know when the flow of funds are certainly gonna come into the city. We have a pretty good idea on the tax credits, you know, rough idea on the sale of this building, but nothing certain. Additionally, with FIB, if we want to, if we have cash and we want to pay off the remaining balance with city cash, there's no penalty. They do ask for, it's, you know, essentially a payoff penalty if we refinance with somebody else, because they want to, you know, maintain that, that lease.
Okay, thank you. Other questions for Andy or our experts who are online? Since we've got Aaron with us, Aaron, if I can just ask you, I'll state the obvious, which is this is complicated, and we are very much depending upon whatever opinion letter we've got from Dorsey and Whitney. I don't know if we've got that in draft form, and whatever you say orally, you're not going to modify your written opinion letter. But can you just reassure us as best you can that you're on board, the firm's on board, you've seen this, you're comfortable, and we do and will have that opinion letter as part of the closing?
Thanks, everyone, for having me tonight. And again, I'm Erin McCready with the Dorsey and Whitney Law Firm. We have been working with Andy and others on his and the finance team. I would say since pre-summer anyway. It was probably this spring that we became involved with this transaction. But yes, we've been through both from a state law perspective as well as from a tax and IRS tax perspective. We've been through the structure. We've spent a lot of time with Andy and the other advisors on the structure, including Adam Markwood from Wishnef, who's on the call today as well. And in addition, the city has a second expert tax counsel who's been involved on the tax credit side. So this has been looked at, very extensively, by a number of law firms. And I'll also mention that FIB also has excellent counsel on this transaction. So it's really kind of three law firms that have taken a look at it and are providing varying levels of opinions and comfort, but including Dorsey and Whitney, opining on the structure from really all perspectives. And I know it is a new structure, and I will mention there are many other communities in the state of Montana that are looking at this with a lot of excitement around the possibilities of having something like this where, you're really not having to repay debt, right? The funds come in, the tax credits go out, and there is some cash flow along the way, and some of the netting that Andy is talking about here goes to that netting back to FIB, but there really isn't a repayment of the credits themselves. So yeah, we've been through this, talked about it extensively over many months, and like I said, it's getting a lot of interest and a lot of excitement from other communities.
Okay, and thank you. But the bottom line is you and the firm and all those other people you mentioned are comfortable with the outcome here.
Yes, we would not be here today. We would not have put the resolution for you all to approve it. We would not have put that in front of the city council if we had reservations on this.
Very good, thank you.
Yes.
Other questions for Aaron, Andy, or anyone else? No one on this end is raising their hand. And Councilmember Tidswell is not either. Chris, were you trying to get our
Yeah,
attention?
so Mayor and Council, so we don't need any action tonight, no direction, but it is on the consent agenda for this coming Monday.
12th, yep.
The 12th, as was discussed in the presentation, and everything consistent with the discussion. As Andy said, we ordinarily wouldn't come, but this is important enough, critical enough, that we wanted to provide this opportunity for Q&A and to answer your questions, and just emphasize the critical nature of what needs to happen next week. And unless, we don't need any action, so if you're all good to go, then.
Yeah, I guess if you think of a question, right, that you want an answer for, obviously, you have a week now to consume that all and think about it, and we'll be able to get those for you, so.
Okay, very good.
See you next week, otherwise.
We'll see if there's any public comment, and then that'll be a wrap
that
on
too,
item
sorry.
number 1. So is there any public comment on item number 1? Any public comment on item number 1? No one's coming forward, so we'll close the public comment period. Thank you, Aaron and Adam and Andy, and we'll see you in 1 week. Again. On to item number 2, which is our downtown angle parking discussion. Debbie's our presenter.
I'm actually not the presenter, but I'm going to introduce this. Sarah Plath, one of our staff engineers for the city, who is in charge of this project, is the one that's going to do the bulk of the presentation. I just wanted to go back a little bit and talk about the history. When we started looking at whether this should be, the downtown streets should be converted to two-way streets, and adding more multimodal facilities into our downtown, we looked at how we should do that safely. And that's what you see on 29th and 30th. We got an early out project, tried it on those two streets. And so the good and bad part of that is we get to see it, but the bad part is sometimes it changes you mid-course. So that's okay. What we've brought tonight, we've heard that people want to kind of revisit this question. So what we brought tonight is 4 different options that we think all provide a level of safety that we're comfortable with and will still meet kind of the goals of this project. So Sarah's going to go through these 4. There's really 2 options with a couple different smaller options thrown in there, I guess, and then we can talk about which way we want to go forward.
Very good. Thank you. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you. All right. I'm Sarah Plath. I'm managing the downtown two-way project for the city. So we are here tonight to talk about angle parking. Oops, nope. There we go. Okay, so as a reminder, our current downtown two-way project includes conversions of 2nd and 3rd Avenue North to two-way traffic. It also includes converting the remainder north-south streets to two-way traffic. Broadway is included in our pavement preservation limits, and so Broadway will get restriped with the project as well. We did start construction this fall with some ADA work and some signal improvements, but the bulk of the work will occur next summer. Man, gonna get it. All right. So back and angle parking was installed on North 29th and North 30th Street in 2021 as part of the initial two-way projects. The back and angle parking was installed for a number of reasons, but primarily for the safety benefits. These are all the benefits that we've been saying to the public for the last couple of years. There's better access to the trunk of the vehicle. You could exit towards the sidewalk instead of towards the street. And maybe most importantly, you have better visibility when you're exiting the parking space. In addition, the back and angle parking was put on 29th and 30th to provide consistency with an anticipated change to Montana Avenue. That change would occur with a future road diet project. And then there's also back and angle parking further to the east in the eBird district. So when we talk about consistency, we're talking about consistency as a safety strategy. So it's not just consistency for the sake of consistency. There is a safety component to it. Basically, when we adopt a uniform parking approach, whether that's all back in or all pull-in angle parking, it creates consistency for users of the roadway. When you have consistency between the users and the roadway, you can better predict how each user is going to act on the street. That predictability is essential for safe navigation and ultimately for safe streets. We're also talking about back and angle parking as it relates to bicycle facilities. So having the driver having better visibility exiting the parking space gives them a clearer view of users in the roadway, that whether that's pedestrians, cyclists, or other vehicles. This helps to minimize the chance of a driver not seeing a bike and also a bicycle user not being surprised by a car backing out of a parking space. For these reasons, we recommend back and angle parking when mixing angle parking with bike facilities. So back and angle parking and parallel parking have very similar motions when you're parallel parking in a situation where you can't just pull up and get to the curb. With that being said, we understand that there's a learning curve to back and angle parking for most drivers, but it is worth pointing out that the motions are very similar. The feedback that we've gotten on 29th and 30th is a little bit mixed. The compliance continues to be high, utilization continues to be high, but the feedback from downtown businesses and their customers is mostly negative. With that being said, the eBird and the back and angle parking near McKinley Elementary School, we have about 2 blocks over there as well. We don't hear many complaints from those areas. We're also aware that there are parking meter issues, and so as part of our proposed project, we would set the meters back 3 feet from the back of curb and then place those in line with a parking stripe. So that should help with the issues of cars backing into the meters. Okay, so our recommendation hasn't changed. Our preferred alternative for the parking in downtown is to provide back and angle parking throughout our current projects and retain the back and angle parking on North 29th and North 30th. This provides the consistency that we talked about. It also provides safety for the bicycle users on the bike facilities that we're adding. There would not be any impacts to design or to construction. The project is fully designed. We've already bid the project and we have a contractor under contract. And so it's all designed, bid and awarded based on this alternative. Now, these alternatives are in order of our preference. So the second alternative that we looked at is really about consistency. This would be providing pull-in angle parking at all locations downtown. So to do that, we would need to make a change on North 29th and North 30th streets. But we would have across the board downtown the pull-in angle parking. Now, with that, to accommodate that change, we still don't recommend mixing pull-in angle parking and bicycle facilities. So we would propose or recommend removing the bike lane and the shared lane marking on 2nd Avenue North from Division to North 25th Street. Remove the shared lane markings on North Broadway that are proposed with the project, and as well as remove the existing shared lane markings on North 30th Street. The cost implications are twofold. We have some engineering fees that would go into reworking our signing and striping plans. And then we also would have some costs associated with changing North 29th and North 30th. So this map just shows the bike connectivity as we have it designed. The green lines are our proposed connectivity for downtown. The purple lines are where we already have bike infrastructure. In order to accommodate a pull and angle parking configuration, this is how the bike connectivity would change. So you can see that Second Avenue North bike lane in Sharrow would be mostly reduced. We would still continue it to North 25th. The shared lane markings on North Broadway would be removed, and the existing shared lane markings on North 30th Street would be removed. Notably, this doesn't change the bike facilities on 3rd Avenue North and North 31st and North 25th, so we still would have good connectivity east-west and north-south as well. So third alternative is a mix of back-in and pull-in parking. This alternative is to provide back and angle parking on the streets where we're proposing shared bike lanes, shared lane markings. On the streets without shared lane markings, we would propose to do pull-in angle parking. So what we lose here is the consistency. We're still providing safety for bicycles on the designated facilities. But what this also doesn't really address are the downtown business owners' concerns. The bulk of the parking downtown would still be back at angle. North 29th could change to pull-in angle, but Second, Broadway, North 30th all have bike facilities designed, so we would retain the back and angle on those streets. The cost implications, we still have some engineering fee to redesign some of the streets, and then construction fee to change North 29th. So alternate 4 is another mix, and this is kind of a remain as it is today. This option is to keep the pull and angle on our proposed streets in our current project and to keep the back end angle on North 29th and North 30th. Again, consistency isn't provided. And again, we would recommend removing the bike facilities on 2nd Avenue North between Division and 25th and on North Broadway. The cost implications are not as severe on this one because 29th and 30th could stay as they are, so there's actually a savings due to reduction in the signing. But I would also point out that the businesses on North 29th and North 30th might see this as an unfair option. They would still have the back and angle parking where everyone else would have the pull-in parking. So this just kind of provides the summary of our alternatives. We have 1 and 2 that provide the consistency. The only options that keep the bike facility connectivity that we have been planning on, that we have designed, and that we've been communicating with the public for the last year are options 1 and 3. And the only option that fully addresses the downtown business concerns that we've heard is option 2. So with that in mind, we are okay with all of these. Our preference is in order from 1 to 4. We are looking for direction on which alternative to move forward with. The timing is that our contractor is wanting to be ordering signs by the end of the year for the project. So they need to know whether or not to order the back and angle parking signs. With that, I can clarify any information on the design, and then Debbie and I can answer questions as well.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Very clear. Councilmember Boyette.
Your first point is safety, and you've brought that up several times, but I've lived here all my life, and I don't remember the last time somebody got run over from somebody backing up. Do you have any data whatsoever to say safety is important when we never hear that there's an accident, people walking or driving a bicycle and getting run over? We don't hear that.
Right. Do you want to take it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the big difference is that we're moving into a multimodal community. So for a long time, we've had streets, but downtown specifically, that are not friendly to bikes. And so if we are moving to a multimodal facility, a multimodal community, a more vibrant downtown where you're having multi-modes coming into there, then you are changing how that traffic works. So where you didn't have them before, maybe when we start bringing more people that are on bikes and walking downtown, then you might have more of those conflicts.
Go ahead.
But right now, we have no data to prove that that's going to do anything or not, though, is what I'm saying. We don't have any statistics.
Not with the existing, we don't have multimodal downtown, so we don't have statistics that say cars are hitting bikes every day. That is correct.
And then even Christy Drake said it's only less than 1% of the people have bicycles with her group anyway. So it's a very small group.
And I think that's what we're looking for the city council. Are we interested in moving to multimodal facilities? If we are, we need to build our streets a certain way. If we are not, then we need to build those streets a different way. And that's where we're looking for that feedback.
Debbie, on that question, and then Councilman Rowan, it's a big country. So there's lots of other cities that probably have gone farther down a multimodal path, but also have parallel parking, angle-in parking, and back-out parking. Do we have any data from their experience with accident rates?
So I'll answer that question one way and then see if Sarah has some more data. We did look all over the country at different places. Every community is so different. So there was a lot of communities that went to back-in, decided it wasn't worth it for whatever reason they went to it, they went away from it. Other ones went to back-in, loved it, kept it. What we found is most communities that have bike facilities highly recommended not using back-out parking or angle-in parking. So that's what we got. Do you want to talk more about exactly the communities? Yep.
So I think to your question specifically, the municipality that we either talked to or got information from that had actual data on crash rates were the city of Austin and then Seattle, and they both, so the city of Austin has implemented some back and angle parking in different locations throughout their city. In one particular area, they found a reduction in 33% of crashes and 50% between bike and vehicle. So they did find a reduction. Seattle has kind of a general statement that showed a 3-to-1 ratio of collisions occurring with head-in as opposed to back-in. So basically a 3-to-1 crash rate. A lot of the other municipalities either had just general design guidance that spoke to back-in versus pull-and angle parking. So we did look at within the state how Helena and Missoula have approached it, and then more nationwide, Baltimore, Salt Lake City, Austin, Seattle, and San Diego. So kind of across the board how municipalities are approaching back-end versus pull-and angle parking.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Sarah, if you've got any of that in writing, if there was any sort of studies created or reports created, would you mind sending those to the council?
Yep, Austin has one that kind of summarizes all their safety findings, so we can send that out.
Okay, great. Thank you. Councilman Rowan?
Thanks. I had a question, but then some of what you were saying just raised another question in my mind. I observed that a lot of the comparison cities are warm weather climates. Do we have any data or any indication about challenges, not set aside the bike issue, but just challenges of handling slippery roads and back-in parking?
You know, I haven't seen anything come up to those points other than in Helena. They have a couple spots where they actually put in back and angle parking on a hill because it better aligns them with, better aligns the vehicle in a slippery street condition. That's about the only thing that comes to mind.
That's helpful. And then I don't know if you can answer this or Debbie, but if the recommendation from council was option 2 or 3, where do we anticipate those additional costs coming from, the funds for the additional costs?
That's probably a.
We haven't talked that through. My guess is downtown tax increment financing may be one source. I mean, the two sources would be the TIF and would be the street.
No, I get
Free
that.
budget.
I get what they are.
but-
I'm wondering if, I mean, are we looking at like cutting a project? Are we looking at doing the project over a longer period of time to accommodate the costs? What are the thoughts here?
We didn't get very deep in it, truly, in answering your question. It definitely, there are resources in the downtown TIF, but they are quite limited. So our staff has projected that any of the four work. I'm hopeful that if you abandon full back in, I'm hoping we're going to leave 29th and 30th the way we did it. We just paid for it.
No, option 4.
I think, yeah, I'm sorry, but yes. The one that wouldn't reverse all the work that just got done in the last couple of years. I just think, though makes for a mix, it does not redo a lot of work that we just did.
Okay, that answers my questions, thanks.
Very good, thank you. Councilmember Boyett.
One of the things I've seen is, complaints is that when people backed in, right now, they knock over the parking meters. So you're saying you're going to move the parking meters. Okay, how much does that cost for moving all the parking meters versus staying where they are the way they are?
So the cost that we have is baked into our bid. I don't have that bid form right in front of me, but we did include it in our, in the cost of the project. So the short answer is I'm not sure that number exactly, but we can get it to you.
No, I mean, excuse me, but could it be $50,000, $100,000? Could it be a substantial amount of money?
So are you talking about on 29th and
Right.
30th?
Moving the meters?
I'd have to look. I don't have a good gut feel for that. Yeah. Yep.
Sure, on that question, it wouldn't be just 29th and 30th, right? Because any place we went to back in, we'd want to move
Yep.
the meters. And would that be every meter? Because I'm just sort of thinking, it seems like every meter is close, within a foot or so of the curb, and we're talking about 3 foot back, right? And making sure it lines up with the line so people don't back into the thing.
Right.
Is that most meters? I'm not sure.
So-
I guess probably so, right?
Yeah, I mean, any of the meters that fall within the angle parking, and so that cost is included in our current project. So that is within our bid, the $6.1 million construction contract that we've already awarded. So that cost is accounted for, but we have it included for any meter that is for a back-in angle meter, or stall, I guess.
And so is the savings taken into account, I guess in alternative 2, that's part of the, well, no, has that netting occurred to reduce the $380,000? Because the cost of going to pull in only is $380, but is that net of those savings that would occur?
Yeah, so we would probably have an additional savings, because I didn't work that into that cost estimate.
So that 380 would actually be less than 380.
And so the 380 is really budgetary. That number is based off of extending unit quantities that we had bid. But there's a couple quantities in there that we would have to negotiate with our current contractor that are lump sum items, and so that's a very budgetary number. So it could potentially be reduced regardless, but yeah.
Okay, I'm just thinking before this comes back, I bet you would like to see those numbers drilled down as closely as possible.
Yeah.
To the extent they can. Councilmember Kenny, Councilmember Ripsis?
My biggest concern was, the one concern is it's over $6 million to do this whole downtown area. And we went through that over and over again. Now, we've heard from a lot of people that say they'd like pull-in parking. And a lot of downtown business people have said they would like pull-in parking. I know there's a group of people, I don't want to say Councilman Ed and his family, but a lot of them that are supporting the back-in parking. But really, on the whole, out of a $6 million project, you can't find a way to eliminate a few things and put in front row parking without telling us it's going to cost another $300,000. I think you need to work with your numbers a little bit and your contractor, and then get it down there, because this is an awful lot of money to do all the things, or we could just not do anything at all and save the money.
So I would say two things. One is that The $6.1 million that we bid, that is bid to create exactly what we're looking at. You're talking chip seals, you're talking striping. There's not a lot of really glamorous or fancy things in there. Projects like this don't have a lot of fluff, and especially not to the tune of $380,000 on that side of a project. The other issue is we're using street maintenance fees to chip seal these roads and to stripe them. To go back and redo 29th and 30th, I do not know if street maintenance money can be used for the purpose of changing that. That's something we need to look into, the legality of that. I kind of assumed it'd be TIF, so I didn't look at that, but we should look at that.
And maybe that should have been done before we got here tonight.
Councilor Ripsis and Councilor Absent-Leiter.
Thank you, Mayor. Sarah, a couple questions for you. One, if we're looking at moving all the meters, did we look at some of the newer metering systems that are used all over the place that, don't use meters and maybe use centralized, pay stations and those types of things that then kind of eliminate that concern?
So we didn't specifically talk about that with parking, but parking has been very involved in this project through the whole from before we even started design to final design. So that, to my understanding, is not something that they're prepared to do, but it's probably a conversation we can have.
Okay, I think it certainly would be nice to have some background on that. I'm sure,
Councilman Rupes, Mayor and Council, no, excellent question, and I jotted a note down myself when it was stated because of just exactly that. I have no idea what the cost comparisons are, but I think this is the time for sure to understand if the technology and if the companies who provide those services, how much they'll finance those kind of changes long-term. Because we certainly, I think we are unique in that we still have meters by the space throughout our downtown.
yeah, thank you. So then my other question was, if we go to front-end angle parking, change the design and eliminate the connectivity from, say, 30th, what do you expect people will actually do if they're coming? We've got this map that shows, there's a bike lane all the way down 30th, and then under the new design, it will just go away. So what do we expect people that are riding bikes on 30th, which is a great street to ride a bike on? It's not just Ed, by the way. But what do we expect people will do when they get across 6th and suddenly it's no longer, what's the plan there?
Yeah, so we would want to look at what other connectivity options we have. There might be some simple wayfinding to get people to North 31st, where we're putting in the two-way cycle track. If someone is a more comfortable rider, they could ride on the street. In the lane, you don't need the shared lane marking to be riding in the street. So you could, someone on a bike could still ride in the street. It just wouldn't be marked that way. And we would probably provide some wayfinding that would get them to other facilities.
Before
And
they
that was
even
the
get to
thought with 2nd Avenue North, extending it to North 25th. You can then get up to 3rd via 25th. So I think there's still ways to get people through downtown with just a block jog or so. Yeah. It's not ideal though, which is why it's option 2.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good, thank you. Councilor Absent-Leiter?
I don't have any questions. I'll just comment for the sake of time, and then I'll wait to vote. My support's behind option 4. I don't think any of this other stuff makes a lot of sense to me. Certainly doesn't make a lot of sense to go through and redo 29th and 30th and spend the money or try to find where we're going to pull the money. We all know the condition of the downtown TIF. Pulling another $380,000 out of that's less than ideal, to say the least. So my perspective is that we go through with option 4. Let's see how this works. Let's see how things go as our city continues to move forward. The biggest push behind this from the get-go was to get our downtown into two-way streets. It wasn't about the parking. So with the businesses asking for traditional pull-in parking, let's do what makes the most sense for the businesses. Give them the two-way streets and let's move this on.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, Ed, we do want to have an opportunity for public comment as well, so. If you were going to move from questions to kind of ultimate comments, I'd probably go to public comment now, but.
I do have a few questions.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, but if you have comments first, before the questions, which is, it's not an easy situation or decision for me. I started off being quite supportive of the back end diagonal parking. And, we had I think it was a very good experiment to do. We had a chance to try it out, and it's been a couple years, and it's, but I've come around to prefer the pull-in diagonal parking, just from my experience of talking to a lot of downtown merchants. I do think, as someone who has biked downtown a fair amount, that I still see it as being possible to have a Shero on a street with pull-in diagonal parking. In my experience, people understand it is inherently more dangerous, and so when they back out, they are slow about it. And if the cyclist is taking the lane, you see back out lights, and it's not as you stop. Now, I've also seen situations like in Livingston last week where kids are riding downtown and they're riding they're trying to allow space for vehicles to go by them, drive past them, and so they are riding right next to the diagonally parked vehicles. That's inherently a very dangerous situation. So in that respect, I almost think the Sheros are better because they give riders, they can feel like they have authorization to take the lane. Here's my question, though. So the project bids for this did come in less than the budget. Is that correct? And how much did they come in below what our engineer's estimate was?
I am pretty sure we had 7.4 million budgeted, and it came in at 6.1, so.
So,
The budgeted amount was 7.4 million, and it came in at 6.1 million.
so on that basis, I guess I'm supportive of alternative two. I think the consistency is good. Noting again that this is a complex, not easy thing, because there are good reasons we tried doing the back end. One was that the MDT wants to have the back end diagonal parking. So I'm contradicting myself here, but I think it's something that we're maybe a little ahead of the time. And I think we've also, as a city, I think a lot of our citizens don't think we're listening to them. And if we are putting forward back end diagonal parking, that's just going to be another black eye for us. I guess I'm supportive of alternative two for that reason.
Very good. Why don't we open up for public comment at this time then? If anybody would like to comment, please come forward. You know the discussion. Just tell us your name and address and keep your comments to 3 minutes if you would.
Hi, my name's Adam Kern from 1019 North 26th. I've been coming to these meetings just kind of listening to things, but I kind of always have a little bit of input. I appreciate the pull-in parking. I totally understand the safety of the back-in parking, but I think a lot of people also can't back in right, so their nose sticks out, so then you're blocking the other lane when you're trying to back in. My biggest concern is you move the parking meters in 3 feet. Well, then the snowplow guy that's plowing the road has to go around it. Now you're going around this thing. Also, my issue with back-in parking is like if my hitch is sticking out of my flatbed truck and somebody trips over it, do they sue me? Or do they sue who? Or if they hurt themselves when they back in? Or if everybody just pulls in, it's just your bumper up front and nobody's gonna have an issue with that. My issue with the comparisons is they compare like huge cities. We're not a huge city that we're comparing to. And I think Billings should have been built with wider streets, but nobody ever planned on it being this busy and this big of a city. And then we could have had great bike lanes and stuff like that. But comparing it to big cities, I mean, Missoula would be great, but I think Missoula has great downtown, but they have a lot more bike paths and stuff like that. But I think if the businesses hate it and the citizens hate it, I don't know why we'd vote and spend $6 million some just to put in something because we think we're new age and we're going to start back in parking for very little extra safety. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Other public comment? Is there any other public comment on item number 2?
Hi, Stephanie Donovan from 824 Park Hill. And here to, I'll sign in as well. I'm here to discuss the bike facilities associated with the conversion and the restoration. So I'm just a proponent of integrating those bike facilities as much as possible with the front end angle. We know the sharrows disappear and the network reduces, the bike network reduces when that happens. So I'm really pleased to see the cycle track going in because that'll be a huge artery for bicyclists. But I feel like there could be some more steps to be taken. And I understand this is an evolution over time too. You know, we got to see how it works the first round. But please keep that on the top of your mind. There are people that bike downtown, and more than likely you probably will see people on the sidewalks. They're going to get off the cycle track, try to get to where they're going, and they're going to be getting on the road, getting on the sidewalks, just anywhere where they feel safest. So thank you.
Very good, thank you. Any other public comment on this item? Mike, you're moving forward. I'm just going to ask you to keep your comments short because normally we'd say you get one bite at the apple and you already had it. But if you've got something, the night is still young, so and we appreciate your contribution to all things bike and pedestrian down in Montana. But if you want to make it quick.
Couple minutes?
2, how about that?
Okay.
Go ahead.
When I sit here and hear this about, you know, the parking and the amount of time that's spent on it, the solution is so simple. Front-end parking like we've had since 1918. It works great. Let's just keep it that way. You know, change the other ones back. All it takes is some striping to fix 29 and 30 and get the thing done. Something else I made a note to myself that if back-end parking is so good, let's take all of our parking structures and make those back-end parking. Okay? That would really be, people would really love that. All 3 of them. So.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any other public comment on item number 2? No one's coming forward, so we'll close the public comment period. Now back to council, further questions or comments, and I'll just remind Councilmember Tidswell, feel free to raise your hand or just interrupt if we don't see your hand, Councilmember Tidswell. Councilmember Ripsis?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one more question before we kind of get to a motion. Sarah, when we, or Debbie, whoever can speak to this, when we eventually get to the Montana road diet, do we have any expectation that MDT will listen to us and say, you know what, we tried the back end, the city hated it, we didn't do it, and so Montana Avenue will not be done as back end?
No. We have talked to them several times about it, and they're pretty adamant, and they've been doing that now. So anytime they have something come in on one of their streets, they have been requiring back in across the state.
So, Mr. Chair, that's where we need to direct our comments if you're really concerned about that. To MDT, when Montana Avenue.
But yeah, Mike, I don't think we need, he was just advising you that that's MDOT's position, so you need to take that up with them. It's not our street, as you know. Councilmember Joy?
Thank you. I have a question about, there's been a lot of weight put on businesses not being happy with the back-end parking, but I haven't heard the reason why. So can anyone enlighten me? They don't like it, but what is the reasoning behind them not liking it?
And which staff person would you like to?
Could Director Melling or Sarah? I'm not sure.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, I can speak a little bit about this. Oh, sorry, Mehmet Casey with the Downtown Billings Partnership. We had surveyed businesses prior to the conversion of 29th and 30th, and the reception then, not knowing sort of what it looks like in real life, was at best neutral. Some said sure, some said nah. So we went and did it. After that, we were directed by council to do a survey community-wide. So we did that, and we got 308 responses from the community, which is may not seem high to you, but normally when I do surveys, I get 10. So that was a pretty good turnout. Some people, again, hated it. Some people loved it. Most everyone said, whatever you do, please make it consistent. If it's pull in, keep it pull in. If it's back in, keep it back in. If it's parallel, keep it parallel. That's the general census from the community-wide survey. And then this year, I surveyed the businesses and property owners on 29th and 30th again, now that we're 3 years into it, to see how is their input. 100% minus the Lincoln Center and the Billings Education Association, who were also indifferent. Everyone else was not only please take it away, but it was please insert expletive, take it away. The feedback has been, my customers hate it. They don't like it. They come in venting to me. As much as I talk to them about the safety benefits of it, they're not in a receptive mode when they come in defensive about it. Some of them would come in with damaged vehicles already as a result of hitting the meters or the light pole or the tree. Some of them will threaten not to come back downtown. Some have claimed that they've lost tens of thousands of dollars from people who are not coming downtown as a result of that. So these are some of the reasons we've heard from the businesses and property owners.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Troy.
Just to follow up, so only half of the street is back in, the other half is parallel. So sum total, for losing hundreds of thousands of dollars, how many back-end spots do we actually have? Because all the other streets, east and west, are parallel. One half of the street is parallel, only one half is back-in. And of the section I can think of, there's one section with quite a lot of retail, other sections, very, very little retail. The federal building, not a retail place. So how many spots are making people lose hundreds of thousands of dollars? How many spots do we actually have? That's what I'm asking. Thank you.
Mayor and Councilmember Joy, this might be a question for city staff or maybe not, but I don't remember off the top of my head. I know because we office on 29th off of 1st, that stretch, there's I think 17 or 18 of them. The other large stretch is by the Lincoln Center. And then there's another one on 30th across from the Art House. And then I think there's a few more spread out. There's some by Sarah's Mexican restaurant. There's some by the Federal Building, like you mentioned. There's some by the St. John's United facility. So, but I don't have a number off the top of my memory.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Councilmember Osterleiter?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move to advance the project forward using alternative 4.
Okay, there's, again, we're not taking final action tonight. This would be to direct staff at whenever this is coming back to. It's not. It's not coming back for formal action, so this would just be direction at staff level to move ahead with item 4.
So Mayor and Council, if there's clarity on which direction we want to take, there's not a need to bring it back. It's not mandated. It's one of those instances where the motion is hugely helpful, so there's clarity on it, but we don't need to change something if you provide clear direction tonight.
Okay, so the direction is item number 4, or option number 4, and second by Councilmember Owen. Discussion. Do you want to speak to your motion?
I'll reiterate what I said. I think there's no need to go another 380,000 in. I mean, I understand the concept of consistency. We still don't know, even if we did that, what MDT is going to do, which may lead to not having consistency anyway on Montana Avenue. So until we figure out what MDT is going to do with Montana Avenue, I don't think it's prudent for us to spend $380,000 to change it to then have inconsistency anyway. On top of that, if this is something that we're going to change, should MDT decide to change their direction, we can put that on the maintenance schedule with Public Works the next time we do a chip seal and restripe it at that point for 29th and 30th. I think the most prudent decision for us tonight is to go with option 4. Let's actually vote on saving the city some money for the first time in a long time, and let's move this project along.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Rowan.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I could be, convinced to do number 2, but I hear what the business owners are saying, and thank you, Mehmet, for that information, but I think there's also a frustration with the city doing something and then immediately undoing it and then doing it and undoing it. So I think 4 makes sense for now, and I think when we've completed that work, then we can come back and revisit what to do with 29th and 30th, but I think it's clear the public does not want us to continue moving forward with this. And so I think 4 is a reasonable way to go forward. And then I would just ask that when we're done, we revisit what's going on 29th and 30th. Thank you.
Very good. Councilmember Ripsis, Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm probably more likely to support 2 than 4. Yeah, I get the hesitation of, we just did something, we're reverting it, but we also have to think that, we just heard pretty clearly that people want this reverted, and we recently have had a bit of a reputation as not listening or sticking to our guns and appearing indifferent. So I think 2 makes the most sense from a consistency standpoint. I think even from the future inconsistency with Montana Avenue, that's so far removed from all the rest of these streets that we're talking about, pretty much that it probably will feel differently. Whereas, if we're looking at 27th and 31st and having 2 different approaches there than we do on 29th and 30th, it will be, or 28th and 31st, it'll be very different and perceived much differently. So I'd prefer to have the consistency in the downtown core and deal with Montana Avenue and hopefully try to twist their arms a little bit and have it consistent with the rest of the city. I'd prefer number 2.
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy.
I prefer number 2 also. It's a lot for small businesses to stay in business. And just with I was a small business on Grand Avenue, and we had 2 summers of road construction. It hurt a lot of businesses there, and when people couldn't get through, you have a lot of people saying, I would go down and shop there, but there's another alternative. I'll go out on Shiloh Road and go to a place there instead of downtown because I don't want to back up. And so, I would look at item number 4, but the problem I have with it is we pass item number 4, it'll never come back. So I would rather stay with alternative number 2.
Very good. Further discussion on the motion? Councilmember Boyette?
Thank you, Mayor. The staff wasn't positive about the 380,000. I think that could have been one way or the other. I think the public's really spoken on this one.
Yeah.
And I think number 2 is the way to go because that's what the public really wants us to do. Thank you.
Very good. I'm sorry. Councilmember Tiswell.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 4. I think that's our best option right now. It's this 4.
Thank you very much.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You're coming in loud and clear.
Yes, I'm going to go with number 4, Mayor.
Very good. Anything else?
No, sir, that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Joy?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's just that I guess if Council is really saying we have heard the public, then number 4 is not it. if we have, and we want to consistently say that we have heard the public, number two is actually what the businesses or whoever is really asking for. And I appreciate getting 300 responses. I don't know. I guess if motion 4 fails, maybe we can look at 2. But if we're going to just say we're listening to the public, 4 is not it. Thank you.
Councilmember Ripsis?
All right. Mayor, not having heard your opinion, I think you're the only one we haven't heard from, but I'd go ahead and offer a substitute motion to recommend staff move forward with option number 2.
Okay, the substitute motion is number 2 instead of number 4. Second, Councilmember Boyette. Okay. Before the substitute motion, would you want to speak to your motion? Before the substitute motion, what I was going to suggest was an amendment to the previous motion that we move ahead with number 4, but direct staff to dig into those 2 options more thoroughly. Specifically try to look at the cost numbers of number 2 with when an evolution might occur with future maintenance, how long it would be before it would kind of naturally and more cheaply evolve into a number 2, that sort of thing. But still move ahead primarily with number 4, but having narrowed the scope dramatically, come up with those better cost numbers. That's not germane exactly to the substitute motion. So I was a fan of number 4. For what it's worth. Are we, and if this one fails, I would go back and still try to make that amendment to to the 4 option, because number 2 might evolve into a better option in the future. Further discussion, though, on the substitute motion of number 2. Can we vote? Before we vote. Don't see anything else. So we'll move ahead with the substitute motion, Councilmember Repsis, for number 2. If in favor of the substitute motion, in favor of alternative number 2, please raise your hand. Voting in favor are council members Gulick, Joy, Kennedy, Boyette, and Repsis. And if in favor of number 4, please raise your hand. Council members Owen, Cole, Aspenleiter, and Tidswell. Motion passes. Substitute motion passes 5-4 in favor of alternative number 2. That would seem to resolve the issue, but is there anything that staff wants, since the whole goal here is to give you direction? Debbie's not shaking her head that she seems equipped, but Debbie, go ahead and comment.
We will look at 2 closer and see if we can dial those numbers in, and we'll send that in a Friday update here in the next couple of weeks.
Very good. Thank you. All right. I think that concludes number 2. So highlight of upcoming agenda items. Chris, anything for us?
So we did end up moving our CPSM update. We had some scheduling conflicts with our consultants, so that has been moved to January 6th, the first work session in 2025. Because in December, remember, we just have 1 work session. We turn the second and third meeting into a regular meeting. So that's a change from your agendas if you've been looking out. And then, as I've been saying for a while here, capital improvement plan, most significant adoption, coming up here in the next 60 days. So with that, I guess I'd add one other component, which is not really, well, it's agenda related in location. So we will be literally pulling the plug on this location and its and some of the equipment here to the new city hall. So there will not be a possibility of running a live televised meeting out of this location after our 3rd meeting in December. And all that will happen on schedule, so that January meeting is in the new city hall. So that just a FYI, and there's some talk as to whether that last meeting, that 3rd week in December, will be at the library or will be here. Currently, it's tentatively scheduled to be at the library, just to give us a little bit more space to make that technology and make that move. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Boyette?
Mayor, and Chris, just to remind everyone of our meeting next week is on Tuesday, not on Monday.
Thank you very much. And then, of course, unless you've been hiding and able to not turn on any type of electronic device, you'll know that it's election day tomorrow. So city offices are closed. Several of us have meetings and other things, but technically city offices are closed tomorrow, and please participate in the election. We'll see everybody next week on Tuesday because of Veterans Day, and there is a Veterans Day memorial activity at Dealer Park in the new memorial that's being constructed. So I don't have the time off the tip of my head, 11 o'clock? 11 o'clock there at what would be the northeast corner of the Dealer Park site is where the new Veterans Memorial is being constructed. So,
thank you, and thank you in advance to our many poll workers. Councilor, did you have anything else, or was it the Veterans event?
Yeah, and everybody has received one of these, so love to see you.
Very good, thank you. Any items of council discussion? Any public comment on things that were not on our agenda tonight?
Mayor and members of City Council, my name is Brian Johnson. I reside at 3108 Saddleback Trail in Ward 4. I'm a partner and the Director of Design at Collaborative Design Architects here in Billings. I asked for just a little bit of latitude. I'm going to try to keep my written comment as quick as possible. I know I only have a few minutes. Since March, my team and I have had the privilege of working closely with Dick Zier, the South Billings Urban Renewal Association, and this council to develop alternatives to the original $143 million design option for the Billings Recreation Center, which was turned down by community taxpayers last November. Over the past 7 months, we have worked with SBURA to create 2 less expensive recreational center options, along with a new vision for a public-private partnership for the Amen Park property. In August, we presented our ideas for the public-private Amen Recreation Campus, ARC, project, which was championed by SBURA and accepted unanimously by this council. It's important to note that we developed this concept at no cost to the city taxpayers. My partners and I love our city, and we believe so strongly in this idea that we chose to have our little firm step up and contribute over $80,000 in donated time and resources to bring our vision for the Amen Recreation Campus to life. In addition to our time, we took it a step further by assisting the city in securing a tenant for the first pad site, which will be home to the Yellowstone Ice Foundation and the new Signal Peak Energy Arena. That project was slated for a West End property, and we brought it to the Amen campus. We are proud of the approach we have proposed, one that was designed to meet the goals of our community in a balanced, sustainable way. As of 4:52 this afternoon, we were notified by your park selection committee that Collaborative Design was not selected to move forward with this project. As Collaborative's vision moves forward without our leadership, I respectfully urge this council to oversee the critical elements that will ensure the success of the Amen Recreation Campus for our community. At Collaborative Design, we take pride in award-winning design work, and we approach this project with an unwavering commitment to delivering a concept that was not only beautiful, but also efficient, south side community-centered, and most importantly, 100% fiscally responsible. Over the past 7 months, my team engaged local stakeholders, including the YMCA, the Billings Aquatic Club, the Yellowstone Ice Foundation, Amen Parks, SBURA, Billings Parks, and this city council to shape a plan that could adapt to our community's evolving needs. Our public-private partnership was using only a portion of the available taxpayer TIF funds that were available, reflecting the priorities by the majority of your constituents last November. Our project's all-in costs, you might take notes, include a 60 to 70,000 square foot court structure, fully improved site parking, pad sites for the city's partners, street extensions from King Avenue East and South Billings Boulevard, utility infrastructure, and our team's discounted design fees. A full campus development opportunity using available tax dollars without additional subsidies or taxpayer bonds. While we are unsure if the committee's selection was a matter of politics or a simple decision we just disagree with, we are extremely frustrated that our team was not selected to move forward with the concept we created that was unanimously accepted by this council. My primary concern now is ensuring that this council maintains full control over the project that we've designed for financial success. This campus is vital not only for our residents, but also supporting local economy, including hoteliers, restaurateurs, retailers, and other community businesses that stand to benefit greatly from the campus. In light of the committee's decision, I respectfully request that the council consider the facts we have presented through Collaborative's campus concept and weigh the consequences of entrusting this project to another design team that has previously struggled to meet the expectations for a recreation center in our community. The design team's efforts for this campus must meet the high standards our community deserves, and now it's your responsibility to make sure that happens. Our city deserves a beautiful and affordable community project, and my team has proven that we can create a vision with the tax dollars that are currently available. Thank you for your time and allowing me to update you on this important project for our community.
Thank you. And thank you, Ryan. I just want to acknowledge Collaborative Design's efforts at the very beginning. It really was their initial efforts that brought this very important project to the public's attention. Can't comment on anything that's happened after that, but those are the facts. So thank you very much. Any other public comment on things not on our agenda tonight? Don't see any, so we're adjourned. Thank you.